But the senator, while indoctrinated, could not explain his toxicity.
This is HBR News number 238, Wonder Woman's Phallus, secret female pedophiles, and Meghan Markle is a royal pain. Get it? It's a joke. Where we reflect on the stories of the week and give it the Badger treatment. Hello everybody and welcome to Honey Badger Radio. I hope you're doing well this week and that you are laughing at the absurdity so that you aren't consumed by it. I'm your host Brian. I'm joined by, as always, my austere patriarchs and our handmaiden, Hannah, and the two mics. We have a great show lined up for you guys today, so please be sure to continue the conversations both in the chat as well as the comments section. On this week's HBR News show, we'll be talking about the honks of the week, which include Oprah's abandonment of the Russell Simmons #MeToo documentary, a woman who posed as a teenage boy in order to prey on young girls, a single mom who tried to scam the system, and more. So stick around, it's going to be a good time. And be sure to join us afterwards for the patron-only after show. The only movie to be measured by the one metric that seems to matter most, which is the number of mass shootings that it caused, that would be Joker by director Todd Phillips and starring Joaquin Phoenix, killed the Golden Globes and is now nominated for several Academy Awards. While this is something uninteresting to me on its face because I don't give a fuck about awards, what is interesting has been the reactions from woke journalists and commentators on some of our favorite websites, particularly the ones over at Slate. We will be going through this specific article, which consists of one galaxy brain take after another by the none and only, or the none and only, because I never heard of him, Dan Coys, which is entitled, Joker's Oscar Nominations Are a Joke. Stop the madness. This movie is dumb as hell. Spoiler alert for this article. He uses the word dumb a lot because thesauruses are apparently alien to him. And he probably liked cats. Let's be real. Anyway, if you want to be a part of the after shows, either as an audience member or a participant, please consider becoming a Badger yourself by going to feedthebadger.com and starting a monthly subscription. And if you don't want to wake up one morning to find yourself unable to find our content because YouTube finally dropped the axe on our channels, please go to badgerfeed.com. That's badgerfeed.com. So before we get into the stories, I'm going to ask that you guys please hit that like button right now, smash like, and because it's good for our analytics, it helps other people see that we've gone live. And also, if you did not know that we went live because you weren't notified by one of the many ways that we notify people, let us know. Let us know if you're getting notifications from YouTube, or if you're seeing our tweets, or if you're getting them through Patreon, or whatever it is your system of choice tends to be. Okay, so let's get into the stories. We're going to start by talking about Oprah Winfrey and Russell Simmons. So, Oprah Winfrey is no longer going to be executive producer on this #MeToo rap industry documentary. In HBR News number 236, so like 2 weeks ago, we covered 50 Cent's reaction to Oprah Winfrey's going after black men quote in her participation in a once upcoming Apple TV Plus documentary, which reportedly detailed allegations of sexual misconduct against Russell Simmons. Since November of 2017, Simmons has been accused of more than a dozen cases of sexual assault or sexual misconduct. Apple's initial characterization of the film simply read the following, quote, a brilliant former music executive who grapples with whether to go public with her story of assault and abuse by a notable figure in the music industry. The film is a profound examination of race, gender, class, and intersectionality, and the toll assaults take on their victims and the toll that assaults take on their victims and society at large, end quote. On Instagram, 50 Cent wrote that, quote, these documentaries are publicly convicting their targets. It makes them guilty till proven innocent, end quote. Perhaps Oprah took note as she is now stepping away from the documentary. She told The Hollywood Reporter, quote, I have decided that I will no longer be executive producer on the untitled Kirby Dick and Amy Ziering documentary. and it will not air on Apple TV Plus. I don't know if you guys have heard that name Amy Ziering before. We'll come back to that in a second, though. First and foremost, I want it to be known that I unequivocally believe and support the women. Of course you do. They buy your books. Their stories deserve to be told and heard. In my opinion, there is more work to be done on the film to illuminate the full scope of what the victims endured, and it has become clear that the filmmakers and I are not aligned in that creative vision, end quote. She continued, quote, Kirby Dick and Amy Ziering are talented filmmakers. I have great respect for their mission, but given the filmmakers' desire to premiere the film at the Sundance Film Festival before I believe it is complete, I feel it's best to step aside. I will be working with Time's Up to support the victims and those impacted by abuse and sexual harassment. Ziering and Dick are previous Oscar nominees for documentaries such as The Invisible War and The Hunting Ground. You guys remember The Hunting Ground? It was basically a documentary film about rape culture on college campuses. This is the work that they've done in the past. More updates to come as the doc is set to premiere in the Sundance Film Festival this month. Simmons has admitted to inappropriate conduct in some instances, and according to Rolling Stone, has apologized for the instances of thoughtlessness in my relationships with women. He has apparently stepped away from his business interests and is now, quote, converting his studio for yogic science into a not-for-profit center of learning and healing, end quote. So, do you guys have any thoughts on this story? Where it's basically like a follow-up on the last one, where we talked about 50 Cent's comments, but I hand the floor to you.
I have a shitload of thoughts, actually.
Okay.
Jeez. The first thought I have, because it just really hit me. Actually, it's not the first one that I had listening to this, but really hit me as the list of documentaries was starting to be read off, and I'm sitting here thinking, wait a minute. Anymore, we've gotten to the point where anybody can make a political statement showing their side of the story, ignoring the other side of the story, and try to convince people of a, basically propaganda point of view, and call it a documentary, and it gets respect as long as it's on the right side of the political fence. And then we have actual documentaries where the full story is told, where the side that isn't popular to tell, among like the Hollywood elite and the news media elite, is presented equally with the other side, and it's not hidden. And they call that propaganda because it doesn't say what they want it to say. And they try to ruin the woman's career who makes it because she's not towing the feminist line. So Cassie J talks about false accusations. She talks about male victims of sexual assault. She talks about men who have had their children ripped out of their lives. And she gets condemned for talking about these difficult subjects because she told a non-feminist story. And apparently that's a woman who isn't supposed to be listened to and believed. And the people that she interviewed are not to be listened to and believed. And the examples that she showed, and the news articles, and the studies and other evidence, statistical evidence, and so on that she presented, those are not to be listened to and believed. But if a woman accuses a famous guy of raping her, that's, rock solid, ironclad story. And she has nothing to gain from it but, fame and public sympathy and maybe a payout and, a little bit of career advancement and stuff like that. There's definitely no motivation for women to lie about being sexually exploited by famous and rich men. None. But certainly this career-wrecking documentary that Cassie J made, that's her motivation is obvious right there, right? She just was trying to destroy her entire career, trying to get herself hated by her ideology. the group that she aligned with before she made the documentary, trying to get the entire world media to come down on her head. She just wanted to be squashed, obviously. Clear motivations. So like this bugs the hell out of me. This whole narrative. And these are not documentaries. The Invisible War, The Hunting Ground, whatever this is going to be called, all of this Me Too shit, this is not documentaries. This is political propaganda.
Yeah. Have you seen those movies, The Hunting Ground or The Invisible War?
I haven't seen. I've read enough from like The Hunting Ground. There were transcripts. I can't sit through that shit. So I've read transcripts, and I learned enough from those that, Jesus. For one thing, if I remember right, it was The Hunting Ground. There's been 2 or 3 other documentary type things that I've seen or read that had a similar vein to them. So I'm trying to remember now which one cited the study. I keep wanting to call the guy LASIK, like the surgery, and it's not quite his name. The study where the guy basically came out and said there was an epidemic of a serial rape on college campuses. And then you read his study, and it does not prove there's an epidemic of serial rape anywhere, but it does prove that among his set of people he asked, and rape is mostly committed by a small minority, like 6% of the interviewees, and they're violent in general. And there was a Navy or Marine study that proved something very similar. They had a higher number, something like 13%. But it was still the same thing, where there's a very small minority of the population that committed the majority of sex crimes, and they were violent in other ways. And that discredited claim of an epidemic of serial rape on university campuses still is being repeated by feminists. Like today, I've heard it recently, that they're still repeating this claim based on this discredited study. It did have some valid potential findings that the guy didn't actually say. So, yeah, I've seen this or read this, and I'm pretty sure that's one of the things that killed it for me. Another one was the attribution of this behavior to men in general, as if because there are men who behave this way, all men must behave this way. It must be a male behavior, and we don't have to pay attention to it when women do it. Similar studies have had similar findings with female sexual violence, in that the same kind of behaviors that elicit yes answers in the studies that basically are being used to claim that there's an epidemic of campus rape. When men are asked those questions, they answer yes in the same numbers to the same questions. And the studies that are being used to claim that so many men have committed sexual violence or would commit sexual violence if they thought they could get away with it, when women are asked those questions, they get the same results. The researchers get the same results that they get from men asking those questions. So I mean, it's not just bullshit that they're making this this film and calling it a documentary. It's not just bullshit that they're targeting men who have not been charged with a crime and convicting them in the public eye of something that they may not have done. It's not just bullshit that Oprah's helping to target black men. The whole thing is bullshit. It's bullshit that they're doing this as if it's a truth. It's bullshit that they're hunting men this way and not acknowledging that the same behaviors men engage in, that these people are attributing to violent tendencies and masculinity, are also engaged in by women. And that if they're predatory when men do them, they're predatory when women do them too. That's the underlying bullshit. Is that they're engaging in a double standard, and they're demonizing men based on something that looks like it's ordinary human behavior that has a spectrum from nonviolent and mutual to violent and one-sided. And that spectrum is pretty equal on both sides. So only looking at one side like that is pretty heinous.
Absolutely. Well,
And they demonized Cassie J for trying to look at the other side.
Yes. Or remember, they offered. I think they offered to. They offered her a large sum of money to fund her project if they got final say.
Yeah,
on
to
the
not
version.
look at the other side.
Yeah,
They
essentially
basically tried to bribe her into silence.
Mm-hmm. Into presenting it a certain way. And yeah, so with going back to this documentary though, the things that I wanted to point out that I find interesting, not only the directors Kirby Dick and Amy Ziering, who made the other films, The Hunting Ground, which, like I said before, is supposedly about rape culture on college campuses, but also The Invisible War, which is supposedly about rape culture in the military. They're making this film, which is about rape culture in the music industry. Specifically I think it's specifically in hip hop and rap, but I think that they would likely broaden it to the other. But what is interesting is that Oprah walked away from the project because she had a difference of opinion on the creative level. Like, they're not aligned in the creative vision. And I know that it's not like a lot to go on, but I have to wonder if the goal of a documentary is just to present the truth about something, is to sort of like pull back the curtain and show you like some greater truth. And it's not propaganda, which, we're going to work from that as the definition of a documentary. Then why would your creative differences be so severe that you would actually pull it off of Apple TV and remove yourself from the production altogether? What is it that Amy Ziering and Kirby Dick, what is it that they wanted to do or didn't want to do that Oprah felt, strongly enough about that she didn't want any part of it? And I think that that's the reason why I find this interesting, because this is the thing that this is what we've seen with these documentaries. Documentaries have become, for the people who want to propagandize or politicize events or topics, documentaries have become a really useful substitute for actual journalism and actual fact-finding. For example, we'll talk about Michael Jackson, because this is a really good example. When the Michael Jackson thing was going on, there was all of this court stuff and all of these like legal battles and it was dragged out for long periods, and he was found not guilty, essentially. He was acquitted of everything, from what I remember. Essentially innocent, right? And that was a done deal. He went on to, make some more music, do concerts, make movies, and so on. His career was unharmed. And that was the end of it. And nobody talked about it anymore. And then he died, and then shortly after his death, a few years pass, I think there was like a period where some restriction was lifted or something had happened. But as soon as that became the case, everyone came out, and this new documentary rose up from the ashes. The Leaving Neverland documentary that was on HBO, and it was, all these people coming forward, and essentially they wanted to destroy his name and raise their own profile via a documentary, essentially substituting what actually happened, what the facts of the case were, with their own accounts. Now, I'm not saying that they're all lying. I don't know. But what I do know is he was found innocent, and that should be the end of the conversation. There's really nothing else to say there, right? In my opinion. And it's also very convenient that you come forward with a documentary where someone can't defend themselves. And I think that we will see, this is another example of that, except that Russell Simmons is actually alive. So, and I know that he's admitted to some things. He says he admitted to inappropriate conduct and instances of thoughtlessness in his relationships with women. But I don't know what that means. I don't know if that doesn't necessarily mean he's a rapist. That doesn't mean that he's assaulted women. It could be anything. So this is something that we are being asked by the people making the film Don't wait for the facts. Don't wait to find out what the truth of the case is going to be. Don't wait for any of those things. Watch this film and just believe what we're saying, because we're telling you what's happening here. And I guess what I'm ultimately saying is that you have to be very skeptical of people that are trying to go around the due process system, the legal system that we already have, to tell you something. And so, it's just, be very skeptical of that. I'm not necessarily taking sides. I don't know whether or not Russell Simmons is guilty of anything severe. But what I do know is that this documentary is trying to send a message. And if you look at Amy Ziering's history with her other films, there's a lot of very questionable data, misleading data that they're using to push a narrative. And that's the difference between a documentary and propaganda. But unfortunately, I think that we live in a time where most documentaries are propaganda. And you have to, you can watch them for entertainment, but just keep an eye open for what they leave out, what they don't show you. I mean, look at Michael Moore, for example. His movies have always been propaganda, just from the beginning. I didn't know it when I was younger and I watched them. I thought that he was actually doing work. But now that I'm older and I look back on that, it's like, holy shit, this guy's full of crap. He's not even telling us anything useful, and he's making a lot of assumptions. Be careful. So I think that this is super suspicious that Oprah Winfrey pulled her funding out. I don't know why. We'll have to wait and see. I think it's important that we follow it, because we are talking about the Me Too movement. We are talking about some pretty serious allegations, and we should probably know, to what degree there is any truth here and what harm it could do if it's a lie. So
there's one other thing to consider with respect to allegations that are of old behavior, and that is the Me Too movement is running 10, 20, 30-year-old behavior through the intersectional feminist standards of today for interpersonal relationships, and the enthusiastic consent standard and all that. That didn't exist back then. The enthusiastic consent standard was barely even being talked about 10 years ago, and it was made fun of more than it was discussed. And when they start looking at things from pre-21st century and early 21st century, they're looking at things that were done in the context of it being considered romantic to show up at the home of somebody who has broken up with you and try to serenade them into coming back into a relationship with you, where today that would be considered creepy and weird by people who are of dating age, normal dating age, not like divorced dating age. And so all of the things that are going to be presented in this kind of so-called documentary are going to be presented in the context of looking at things through a filter of rules that didn't exist when they were done. And people are going to be apologizing for things that, really at the time that they did them, they would have had no indication that they would ever be judged differently for doing them that way. And there will be, people who won't understand that. So there's going to be a lot of discussion about how terrible men were back in the 80s, back in the 90s, back in the early 2000s and everything, when in reality, they were just following the rules that the women gave them at that time.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, be aware of that as well, because it's all about tone and all that. You guys know how this works. You guys know what propaganda looks like. Okay, I got a couple super chats. Albert Nada Retro gives us $5 Canadian and says, Hannah, let's not forget that women can brag about harassing, assaulting, and raping men and get cheered for it. It's like Amy Schumer.
Amy Schumer.
Yeah. Albert Nada Retro gives us another $5 Canadian and says, Michael Jackson paid $20 million to get out of the first case. The end case was probably a fraud. Don't know. Doesn't matter. All we can go off of is what the ruling was. So go ahead.
And I was going to say one thing I want to point out really clear here. That first of all, there was a massive propaganda campaign against Michael Jackson by people who wanted to take his music and sell, or take possession of the Beatles music from him and sell it. The second thing is being blackmailed doesn't necessarily mean you're guilty of anything. Being blackmailed just means that people know that the allegations they're making against you are serious enough that you don't want to deal with them in public. And basically, in a situation like that, a court settlement is blackmail. It's legal blackmail. So I'm not buying that one.
Yeah, it's just like if you're a man and you are accused of rape by a woman and you never had sex with her even, but maybe you've been alone with her, it's severe enough that you got to take it seriously even though you're innocent, because it could destroy your life, and it has destroyed people's lives. So yeah, if you think throwing money at the problem, or maybe they bribed them or blackmailed them, like you said, they blackmailed them to give them money, otherwise they'll make these allegations. Well, he's worried. If he's worried
or otherwise they'll drag him through a long public
that was
battle.
part of it.
That was huge.
That was a really big thing for him, because he was an incredibly private person.
Yeah, in fact, I think this killed Michael Jackson. I'm just, to be honest, I do not think he would have gone through the life path that he took with respect to painkillers and other medications that he was on if he had not gone through that court ordeal.
Yeah.
I'd say that was part of it. And I'd say what really did him in was when it was basically he denied the media apparatus the so-called trial of the century. That was going to rake in billions of dollars for them. And that's when they kind of collectively turned against him. And I'm sure that didn't do his health much good either.
Yeah.
Yeah. But in the end, now, if you look at the history of all of that, a lot of his personality changed during that ordeal. And just having watched men in person go through false allegation ordeals, he hits all of the hallmarks of PTSD from a false allegation ordeal. And this isn't somebody who he doesn't look guilty to me, honestly. That as much as he was awkward and as much as he descended into an odd personality, an odd public personality, this to me this is just absolute bullshit to just find him guilty in public because he reacted badly to being accused.
Yeah,
because he's weird.
Yeah,
and that's what I've told people too on this. Being weird isn't a crime.
No,
not yet, at least.
I got a super chat. I got a super chat that also explains it, and I think we should move on. But French Honey Badger gives us $5 and says Michael Jackson settled the first case because he was in the middle of a tour. He didn't want to end his tour to go to trial and ruin everything. And but the main point of all this thing is that a documentary can destroy you, even if you are found innocent, even if the case is ongoing. And this is the way that these people operate. If they can't get you with the system, they go around the system. They want to ruin you publicly. For all we know, Russell Simmons already, and I think again, it's probably because he wants to avoid whatever the consequences are of this damage to his reputation, right? He's already stepped away from his business interests and is converting his studio for yogic science into a not-for-profit center of learning and healing. He's basically doing the equivalent of I will now live my life as a gay man, like Kevin Spacey did. And so it's a response because it's basically like it doesn't matter if he's guilty or innocent, because there will be people speculating on his guilt, mostly whether or not his guilt, despite the results of the case or investigations. Some of these things aren't even criminal, right? So like no one's actually trying to get justice. They're just making accusations and they can't be investigated. So all you have is his word against hers. So if that's all that's going on, and people like Oprah are basically getting behind the wheel and trying to damage your reputation, well then you know that you're fucked. You're fucked. So the only thing you can do is apologize for anything that you may have done. And I don't think you should apologize, but this is what he's chosen to do. I think apologizing is like admission to guilt to these people. And then try to rearrange your life now that this has happened. So they're going to drag his name through the mud. They're going to ruin his career. They're going to ruin his legacy. And there is no way that he can fix it unless something like drastic comes out. And all he can do is try to like adapt to this new way of living. And that's basically what this kind of propaganda does. It doesn't. And you know what? This is what they want to do. They don't care. They want to ruin lives. That's it. They want to promote their narrative that, every industry, every corner of our society that women visit that tends to be dominated by men, women are victimized in. I mean, look at this. When this documentary is finished, they have covered the music industry, the military, and college. So what? They're just going to move on to some other industry. Amy Ziering is going to make another documentary about rape culture in X. It doesn't matter what it is. And there'll be a new movie about that, and they'll drag some famous people's names through the mud and destroy their lives. And, it doesn't matter. And so this is just another stage in that.
If you're wondering how many of these they've got in them, over 9,000. It's already confirmed. And Russell Simmons is just one of them. That means there's at least another 9,000 to go, Oprah.
Yeah.
To break out the bees. Sorry, I'm doing memes now.
Oh, it's all right. All right, but anyway, let's move on to the next story. And thanks, guys, for the super chats. Let us know what you guys think about this story in the comments. So, all right, we're going to move on. I'm going to give this to Mike J. Oh, this one is crazy. We're going to talk about the most creative pedophile. It's just weird. Go ahead, Mike. I'm sorry. I can't even do this justice.
This one didn't really piss me off until I got into the minutia of it, and well, you'll just see. You'll see. So, Gemma Watts, that's who you're seeing on the stream right there. Both of them, same person. Age 21, has pleaded guilty to 7 charges of grooming and abusing young girls. British-born Watts would dress up and pose as a 16-year-old boy to lure in unsuspecting girls. Quote, Watts targeted her young victims on social media platforms and duped them into believing they were entering into a relationship with someone whom they could trust. She then went on to form physical relationships in which she spun a web of lies and deceit, giving her the opportunity to commit sexual offenses, end quote, stated London Metro Police Detective Philippa Kenwright. Watts used the alias Jack Watton on apps such as Facebook, Snapchat, Yubo, that's a new one on me, haven't heard of that one yet, and Instagram to attract various young girls. Watts was initially caught when one of her 14-year-old victims told a medical professional, who then told police that her boyfriend had sexually assaulted her. This led London police to discover that Jack Watton and Gemma Watts were in fact the same person, and also revealed 2 more victims. You think it would stop there, right? Yeah? No. After being arrested in 2018, Watts admitted to the grooming and some of the assaults. She was then released on bail. She would go on to reoffend later in 2018 when she was found with a missing 15-year-old girl who also told police she was sexually assaulted by Watts. Whoops! She was formally charged later towards the end of 2019. Watts was then sentenced to 8 years in prison.
She was released on bail and never charged with anything?
I guess not.
I'm not sure how this works in the UK, so...
I was going to say, can you imagine if she had actually been a guy? If she'd have been a 16-year-old boy, she'd have been held more accountable for the actions that she took.
Well, that depends on his religion.
21-year-old woman. Well, that's true. But so if she had been a 16-year-old white boy, just 16-year-old British white boy, just like she looks like in that picture, if she really had been Jake Watton, she'd have been in jail. She probably would have even been tried as an adult. But she's female, so, and she looks like a 14-year-old girl. And so she gets away with it until, 2019 when she does it again.
Yeah.
or 2018 when she does it again. Took till 2019 before she actually got sentenced. That's just because we don't think of women as sexual assault perpetrators.
Yeah, we don't take them seriously. I mean,
and apparently this is something she clearly knew and used to her advantage.
Yeah.
At least it seems that way to me.
If you can stand to watch it, there is a documentary about lesbian rape.
Really?
It's not very well made, but it does get the point across.
Hannah, you've been in the weird section of the video store, haven't you? It's porn, Hannah.
It's made to look. I'm telling you, it's made to look like porn. It's really bad. But it does have discussion with the victims. It's just that the documentary then has actresses act out the victim stories, which I think was entirely unnecessary, and a little gross. But in any case, the part of the documentary that's very important to watch is how society just sort of sweeps it under the rug, and it points out this isn't a gendered thing necessarily. Lesbian groups obviously don't want to talk about it because people will generalize it to all lesbians. Feminist groups don't want to talk about it because it's not male perpetration. And male law enforcement don't want to take it seriously because they don't take anything that women do wrong seriously. Female law enforcement don't want to take it seriously because they don't want to be seen as potentially violent people themselves. And the documentary actually goes through all of it, and it's quite besides the part that is made to look like porn, it's quite enlightening. And it is worth looking up, and it is
is it just really low budget? Is that what it is? Like it doesn't have a big Hollywood.
It's low budget, yeah, but I think it was done. I don't think it was done by people who professionally make documentaries, and I think they had a different attitude about let's put this in people's face. I think they thought if they put a portrayal of it in people's faces, it would be shocking and upsetting.
Mm-hmm.
And it is if you've actually been assaulted if you're a female who's been assaulted by another female, it is shocking and upsetting to watch. But I think it would just come across as awkward and weird to anybody else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I mean, I figure if there is going to be a documentary on something like that, which is pretty uncommon, it would probably be, let's say, amateur quality, like or low budget or something.
It's not
like
as
that.
Uncommon as you think.
I know the instances aren't uncommon. I'm talking about the likelihood
the
of a documentary.
Is quite uncommon, yeah.
Yes, that's what I mean. That's what I mean. Yeah, because most of the time, like documentaries, like I said, they like Cassie J's approach is quite. I wouldn't say it's really unusual because there's probably a lot of people that have integrity that want to make documentaries that tell the truth about something, but them getting promoted or getting like exposure is pretty unusual. I think a lot of times it's like approved by the groups that have the ability to present the streams and stuff like that. And maybe a documentary like the one you're talking about, another reason why it may not have, maybe kind of hard to find and obscure could also be that the quality of the documentary is not high enough that, streaming services or, theaters would actually screen it. So
yeah, it's not high enough that they would stream it, and then it's also weird enough that they might not be able to stream it. It's honestly the end of it when they portray the stories. They actually do full nude portrayal of the stories that these women have told. So it would come across as porn to some people. It's not.
Maybe this girl only got
upsetting, but
no. Maybe this girl or this lady only got community service or something. I know that there have been female or feminists in that are politically active in the UK that want to reduce or even eliminate women's criminal sentencing.
Well,
because
it says in 2019 she was formally sentenced to 8 years in prison after she
yeah,
offended
after she reoffended. Well, you had to weigh,
yeah, but
like, female perpetrator versus female victim, right? So if she was doing this to boys, maybe they'd be a little bit more lenient, but because she's doing it to girls, it's like, okay, wait, we're gonna protect
or
these
if she had
girls.
stopped the first time she was arrested or had not gotten caught again after the first time she was arrested, she would have gotten away with it.
Mm-hmm.
Believe women. You're supposed to believe women. So what the hell do you do in this situation?
To answer Albert Nada, who gave us $5 and asked, was the documentary called She Stopped My Voice from 2007? She Stole My Voice. It's called She Stole My Voice. Part of the reason for that title is, of all of the groups of people who have been victims of sexual assault, the ones people really don't want to listen to are women who have been sexually assaulted by other women, or girls who have been sexually assaulted by other girls. It's a disturbing thing to discuss because people want to think of women as being in one big in group, right? The sisterhood, and nobody wants to discuss the idea of women sexually offending against each other. Plus, everybody wants to think of all lesbian sex as being sexy and fun to watch, and I don't, I don't think anybody would have considered it sexy or fun to watch when it happened to me. It was really violent.
Well, yeah, that's a shame. And yeah, I doubt that it was sexy at all. I actually doubt that a lot of lesbian sex is as sexy as the porns do it. I mean, they're pros and they practice and they got a team around them. So, but we're gonna look at some super chats and then we're gonna move on to the next story. So let us know what you guys think about this in the comments. Just again, another example, and I think it's important to have these archived of women who abuse and they are treated with kids' gloves. Because if this was a man, this is basically like a Brock Turner situation, except it really happened, and it happened to multiple people, and they went on to reoffend again. And this also includes levels of predatory, pedophilic behavior. But this is not like massive.
So it's
news.
Kind of nothing like the Brock Turner situation.
But like what I'm saying is that look at, if you contrast it to a high profile male case like the Brock Turner case, and then you look at the differences between these two things, and then you look at how much attention the Brock Turner case gets versus how much attention this story gets, which, yes, it's on CNN, but you're not going to hear a whole lot about this. And I imagine that this will be forgotten about in a week, if not already. And so I think that that's the reason why it's important to compare. I know that they're nothing alike. That's the point. But what is important is that this, if anything, should get more attention. It's stuff like this, but we're not going to hear about it. We're going to see this as a one-off because that's the thing, right? The Brock Turner case proves a feminist theory, which is the theory of rape culture, especially on college campuses. This goes back to the documentary film, The Hunting Ground. The Brock Turner case supports that 100%. It supports the narrative. If the narrative that was built around the case is to be believed. This does not support a feminist narrative, so this will be treated like an outlier. And yeah, I'd be willing to actually go along with the idea that a woman who dresses up as a teenage boy in order to prey on young girls is a bit out there, and probably doesn't happen like super frequently, but I don't think it never happens either. So what I'm saying is that this should be getting more attention, and it's not. And I think that it's, and I don't mean this case in specific, but these incidents of female pedophiles that prey on young boys and young girls. And this is something we're not going to hear about. So let us know what you guys think in the comments. So I'm going to go ahead and look at some super chats. Meredith Glassberg gives us $5 and says, no, don't look at all those female sexual predators standing behind the curtain. Cyberzerk gives us 50 kronas and says, Dr. Randermacam, that sounded very race-Islamophobic. Talking about your comment about religion. And by the way, we don't know this woman's religion. Maybe she is not
Maybe
is
she is
something.
of East Asian descent.
Yes, perhaps.
Is that what you're trying to say?
Or she's taken on the culture, taken it on, i.e., appropriated it. But yeah, I don't know. Mike, did you want to say anything to that comment? I thought I heard you clicking on your mic there. Mike's
Yeah,
mic.
no, I'm sure I have no idea what any of you are talking about. You're all Islamophobes.
All right. Okay, so we're gonna move on to the next story. Let us know what you guys think in the comments section. And now we're gonna look at something. These are just gonna get more and more strange. So, something's missing from Sumlin's story. Jessica Sumlin, a single mother who asked for help after losing her job before Christmas, has been exposed as a liar. During an interview with Fox 13 Memphis, she claimed she was risking eviction and trying to apply to jobs to support her 11 children. 11 children. She was apparently let go from Taco Bell because of transportation issues. Raising 11 children on a Taco Bell salary. Some Twitter users did some digging, and a lot of her story appears to be false. Moesha Stan's account, that's the name there, it's Moesha Stan account, tweets the following, quote, "So the woman with the 11 kids actually lied about a lot. She does not have 11 kids. She was fired from her job for stealing, not for a high-risk pregnancy. And the boyfriend made her start the GoFundMe and lie." Other Twitter users noted her story didn't add up because it takes 90 days for a Memphis resident to be evicted from their home. Close friends and relatives of Sumlin confirmed that she only has 2 biological children, and the other 9, so there are 11 children, but only 2 of them are actually her biological kids. The other 9 are her boyfriend's children who live with her and her mother. What kind of environment is this? So, a woman tried to lie to get some GoFundMe money, and yeah, some people put her on blast and caught her out. But this is I don't even know, single motherhood problems. I mean, the father of her kids are there, but then there's these nine other kids. This is really bad, really messed up. So I give you the floor
on
again.
the expectations people have in our society, though. I mean, like this. I don't know that I buy that the boyfriend made her start the GoFundMe. Did you like stand behind her with a gun, start the GoFundMe?
Yeah.
But and lie. I'm pretty sure they probably had a conversation about this and decided it mutually. Like what was he gonna do? Leave her and take his 9 kids and leave her with her too and go?
Oh no! Stop, please! Don't go.
Like really? First of all.
What was she stealing from Taco Bell? Chalupas?
Like,
they don't make any money there. Do people still eat there? Don't eat at Taco Bell. It's gross.
The last time
Brian, you say something nice about lava sauce right now.
Sorry, the last time I ate fast food that wasn't, that wasn't a newer place, I got food poisoning so bad. So most of those places I do not eat at. But in any case, if she had been in a situation like that, she would have been eligible for welfare. And if she had 11 kids, the welfare department would have thrown everything at her but a bus in terms of free shit. Like that's what they do. And I've sat in there in the little cubicle hell that they have you sit in, waiting for information about just medical care. When I was laid off from one of my 3 jobs, back when we still had child support to pay and stuff, and listened to one of the ladies, one of the caseworkers, help a woman with 5 kids by 4 baby daddies figure out the right amounts of child support to collect from each baby daddy to maximize her child support collection without making herself ineligible for food stamps and cash assistance and utility bill assistance and a house payment and a car payment and a free refrigerator and a whole bunch of other shit that she could get. And I mean, it was all like, fine, they're helping this person be helpless for the rest of her life. I'm out of here as quick as I can get. And as soon as I was able to go in and say, look, I'm grateful, I don't need you guys anymore, I have just made myself ineligible for your services, thank you very much. First thing the caseworker said to me, well, you could still get those services if you divorce your husband. So I wouldn't have bought this woman's story to begin with. But for Pete's sake, the guy made her go start a GoFundMe and lie. The guy made her ask for public money after she proved herself a thief and got fired from her job. Not buying it.
Like he made her look after his 9 children.
Yes.
Yeah, this sounds like a really good functioning relationship right there.
It sounds like she's hoarding other people's children.
Becoming a step parent is not necessarily a dishonorable thing. When you push the real parent out to become a step parent, that's dishonorable. But where there's a situation where children need somebody to care for them and you step in, that's not dishonorable. But for Pete's sake, that she seems to have picked up the male version of a train wreck.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm gonna guess she wasn't doing the greatest before that too.
No.
Maybe it was just the car crash found the train wreck.
Yeah. I mean, who steals from Taco Bell?
Exactly.
Someone desperate to feed 11 kids.
If you got, let's say that you're actually helping to take care of 11 kids, your 2 and the other 9, which, by the way, I don't know. I tried to find out, but I don't know if all 9 of those kids are from another woman. I'm guessing that they're from several other women. And this is probably they probably stuck him with those kids. That seems strange because a lot of times, single mothers will raise the kids on their own. But I have seen instances, I know instances in my personal life that I've seen where a woman will have kids from different daddies, and then those kids will all be raised, or at least spend most of their time with the mother of those daddies, because those women still want to get out and go to the club and live their party life. And I know I've seen that just growing up here, like with the women who live in this neighborhood. And it is very common. So that's something that I guess we don't typically talk about. I know we talk about single motherhood and the problems of that, and that is the most common. But there is another thing that I think is even worse in some ways, is where the mother of the kids will stick the kids, because they don't want to deal with them. They'll leave the kids often for weeks at a time with either the mother of their baby daddy or their mother, or friends that also have kids, like other single mothers, and stuff like that. And I think that puts those kids, because they're not around, their mother or their father in a lot of cases, and they're basically being raised by their grandmother, or they're being raised by a family friend. And this puts them in some danger, by the way, if they're not being raised by the biological mothers. It puts them at risk at a higher level. So the fact that this woman is around 11 kids, and for some reason thought that a Taco Bell salary was going to be enough to support all these children, and on top of that, she thought that it was a good idea to steal money from the only job that she has that doesn't pay very well, I'm guessing, and that she's using to support her family. Just a train wreck, just like Mike J said and Hannah said, a train wreck all around. But definitely something that I thought was worth commenting on, because we are looking at people who have not figured out how to adult yet, but they're reproducing. So I don't know. Does anybody else have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, this is kind of a result of the welfare state, actually. You didn't really see this kind of hierarchy or this kind of social structure and before it became common for neighborhoods that were lower income to be inundated with welfare payments. So you have all of these women-led households where the children reach legal adulthood but never grow up. And because they never grow up, the baby boomer generation of mothers ends up raising the children of the flower power generation of mothers. Then the flower power generation in their middle and old age ends up raising their children's children, and so on. And we're at the point where Generation X is raising their grandchildren. And that's just going to continue as long as it's funded. And as long as we fund a broken education system in those neighborhoods. And parents can't say, look, this school isn't serving my children's needs. I'm going to send them somewhere else. So we have this situation that is a self-perpetuating, broken community creation machine. And guilt is being used, like public guilt is being used, and allegations of things like sexism and racism and stuff to prevent people from banding together to address the problems that keep these people poor and keep these people in their broken social situations. It's really unfair. And as ridiculous as this woman's situation is, and as much as I don't feel sorry for her in terms of, you did something stupid and you are dealing with the consequences, and now you have publicly embarrassed yourself and you're dealing with the consequences of that. And the GoFundMe is fraud, and there might be consequences for that. I don't feel sorry for that, but I do feel sorry for her and everyone like her that ends up in this situation because they are taught growing up by their community that this is the way you're supposed to live. That is reprehensible, and it does need to stop. And we do need to stop letting people guilt trip us as a society into not addressing the problems underneath it, because they're happening to women, or they're happening to Black people or Hispanic people or poor people. The problems are happening because of that guilt, and because we're trying to solve them by throwing money into systems that make them worse.
Yes, very well said. Thank you. All right, so we're going to move on to the next story. So if you guys please leave your comments in the comment section. Let us know what your thoughts are on this story. And we'll move on to the next one. I'm going to hand the floor off to Mike J. We're going to talk a little bit about Wonder Woman, the feminist icon.
Brian, you put that floor back where you found it.
Oh, okay. All right, I'll put it back then.
All right, thank you. We need that floor. It's important. Damn. So this is a little more fun, a little something a little more lighthearted. In a question and answer press event, Gal Gadot, star of the upcoming Wonder Woman 1984, stated that the titular character will not be wielding her sword from the previous movie. Shock and awe. Gadot explained, quote, Wonder Woman does not carry a weapon. We had an intention to let go of the sword because there's something very aggressive with the sword. If you have a sword, you need to use it. We didn't feel the shield was necessary either. She's a goddess. She can fight. She's super strong. She has these skills. So no, she has the gauntlets, she has the lasso, she has the tiara, and that's about it. This is an interesting choice, given how Wonder Woman's sword was seen as a point of contention by some members of woke Twitter back during the build-up to the release of the first movie. The specific issue? Why penises, naturally. Quote, am I the only one bothered by the sword in the new Wonder Woman poster? Why does it look so phallic? Why is that all I can see? End quote, one Twitter user wrote. Quote, Wonder Woman is an ultra-feminine peacemaker. A sword is a lethal phallic symbol. Why they don't go together is not complicated, end quote, another Twitter user said. It's unclear if these now very cold, hot takes inspired the change, or if Gadot's words can be trusted, and the change was made because Wonder Woman already had enough in her toolkits.
Yeah, for a while I was trying to think of a weapon that looks like a vagina, but then I thought, well, the barrel of a gun, I suppose. Kind of.
Yeah, right.
But if you have a gun, you need to use it. Fuck off.
Well,
Not
what
to
about the lasso itself? I mean, that envelops things, and ensnares them.
Makes you tell the truth.
Oh, see, making you tell the truth is definitely a masculine quality. This whole thing bothers me. I've never been a huge Wonder Woman fan, although I liked the TV show when I was a kid, and I think I had a lunchbox from the TV show, which I wish I knew where it went because I think it's probably worth money now.
Yeah,
But
what's her name? Carter? What was the name
yes,
of the woman?
Linda Carter.
Linda Carter.
Yeah, she was the ultimate Wonder Woman. Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
but yeah, I don't think the sword was in a TV show because it was a TV show and you couldn't do that back then. At least not, not with Wonder Woman.
No, I
especially
mean,
with a little kid show like that.
yeah, mostly though, Wonder Woman didn't use a sword. She just had the bracelets. I think that
right.
in
She had the bracelets. She had a tiara. She had
the
a
bracelets,
lasso.
the tiara,
Like,
the lasso. Yeah.
I could see them arguing, this is not normal for her. This is not canon or whatever. I don't know. Maybe it is comics, and I never read really the Wonder Woman comics.
Well, in the last movie,
except for a
did you
couple that somebody bought
Did you watch the last movie?
Nope, not yet.
Yeah,
I will eventually. I just
the last movie, there was a little bit of a plot point, tiny spoiler, that she's like getting the sword. That like the sword is the god killer, and she needs it to fight Ares and destroy him. But it's revealed that the sword actually isn't important. The sword isn't the god killer. She's the god killer.
Of course. Well, in any case, the idea that they think offensive about it being that it's phallic and aggressive. She is an Amazon warrior princess, not just a princess, not just a goddess, but an Amazon warrior princess, right? Like that, the term warrior does indicate some level of aggression. This idea of her being an ultra feminine peacemaker, like you can either be ultra feminine or you can be a peacemaker, but you can't be both. Because ultra feminine itself, ultra femininity is very aggressive. Hyper femininity is very aggressive. If she was really ultra feminine, she'd solve all her problems by running around telling everybody not to eat dinner with her enemies and spreading rumors about them and trying to subtly convince them without coming out and saying it that their asses are fat and nobody likes them. Like that's ultra feminine. That's the idea that it's peaceful is bullshit. But
woke Twitter missing the mark as usual.
Huh?
Woke Twitter missing the mark as usual.
As usual, yeah. I mean, I could totally see them coming up with complaints about this if the modern movie, dramatically changed the character. But to complain that she's too masculine or to complain that she's too aggressive, like that that's so stupid.
Yeah, it was a weird comment for her to make. I think ultimately what she was trying to say in the quote, if go with another interpretation, I think that's closer to the truth, would be like she's got already too much stuff. She's going to become like Batman at this point, who's got everything in the belt from batarangs and grappling hooks to shark repellent spray.
Yeah, I'm gonna side with Mike J on this because Gal Gadot, she's not annoying. She's actually really reasonable and tries to be, I'd say as I don't want to say inclusive, but she's not
uncontroversial.
Uncontroversial, yeah. Yes, that's right. That's right. She said, I think in an interview about this, that she thinks it should be for everyone, and she says boys and girls. Like, it's just a movie about a hero, and she doesn't see it as a
good statement,
as a feminist statement per se, right? And you could see like her past interactions with like Ezra Miller, is that the guy who played the Flash in the Justice League movie? Yeah. And some of the woke crap that he tried to throw at her, and she just didn't get it. It was like alien language to her. So I think that when I saw the interview or the comment that they're quoting in this article, and Gal Gadot never makes a statement like to say that that the sword represents patriarchy and she shouldn't use it or whatever. I mean,
no. I'm just looking at the quotes from the Twitter users and all that.
Oh, like, yeah, sure.
It's also important to realize that's one of the things that kind of threw me for a loop when I read this article. That all these tweets, like I said, they were they were put out around the first movie. So they're all at least 3 years old by this point.
Yeah. You know what's weird, for continuity's sake? I just want to make this point, and if you didn't see the DCEU movies, and maybe you won't get it, but in Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, she has a sword. But I want to understand, does it just, I think that's a continuity error, because in this 1984 one, she doesn't, which I actually prefer. I think it should probably be more along the lines of this. I think the sword and shield thing, they were trying to do more of a, Greek warrior type of imagery, and they abandoned it for something that's more just like straight up, Wonder Woman. Like Linda Carter was always just representing the actual, the purest form. So the thing is that
one of the prominent things about the Linda Carter character was her sleuthing, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, she tracked down the information and found the bad guy by figuring out clues all the time.
Yeah.
And dug into stuff. She wasn't just running around with a big sword hacking and slashing at people. She wasn't, Conan the female barbarian.
Yeah. No, I think
so, yeah, I can see it being a valid complaint. Get rid of the sword. It's just this Twitter shit is dumb.
Yeah, no, they're definitely making it phallic because that's what they see. By the way, I think that if the male weapon is the sword, if that's the phallus, and the female weapon is the lasso or the barrel of a gun, as Mike puts it, that gives birth to bullets. The feminist one must be like a giant fist, right? Like a big fist. That's why it's in this.
Kind of like their symbol that looks like
the symbol,
fisting.
like a that's fisting the female symbol. Yeah, that's right. But anyway, that's basically. I don't know if anybody wants to add anything to this, but there really isn't much to this. It's just kind of funny and silly. It's basically people trying to take what Gal Gadot says, and they're reading into it too much. I don't think that she's not political, or at least she hasn't been overtly so. She's actually been pretty smart about keeping low key, especially with a character that is so easy to politicize as Wonder Woman. And I think that she's been pretty cool about it. It's just really funny watching woke Twitter freak out over choices that they made for the production in the past. And I thought it was just something that was kind of funny. So yeah, Wonder Woman won't have a sword in her movie. So if you're going to go see it, don't expect it. There'll be no phalluses in the film. All right. So if there's nothing else, we're going to move on to the next story. And let us know what you guys think about this one in the comments section. So lastly, we're going to talk about Prince Harry. I know that he's been in the news a lot. And I apologize for the dog that's barking. That won't shut up. Trying to do a show. Okay. So the Daily Mail has made a cheeky article documenting Prince Harry's timeline before and after his marriage to Meghan Markle. Titled, quote, "Once Prince Harry was the life and soul of the party, so how did he go from fun-loving bloke to the Prince of Woke?" The article illustrates with photographs Prince Harry's new interest in preaching about environmentalism and writing positive affirmations on cupcakes. As I like to call them, cupcakes. He has announced he and Meghan will quit public life. Press F to pay respects. So here's some pictures of old Harry. And I know people have been saying a lot about this. I'm not one that knows a whole lot about what's going on with the royals. I don't usually follow it. I don't care about it.
Brian, that's normal. We kind of fought a war for this thing.
Yeah, but there are people in the U.S. that are pretty fucking obsessed with what goes on with the royal family. Do you remember?
People, you mean women. Women, you mean women, Brian.
I do mean women.
I think I can even speak for most people in the UK when I say I couldn't give less of a fuck about this if I was dead. I couldn't give less of a fuck about this if I had always been dead.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I'm going to use this as kind of a cautionary tale. So, apparently they left the palace or they were kicked out or something. And Queen Elizabeth doesn't like Meghan Markle, or the royal family doesn't like her, or English people don't like her. because apparently she's like a brat and she won't like do. Because like if you're gonna be a member of the royal family, you have to follow all these really strict rules because like their reputation is extremely important. Like it's all like very performative and ceremonial stuff, but you have to follow the rules if you're gonna be a part of it. And they're not a family without any power, and they certainly have a lot of money, right? But Meghan Markle went in there and she just shook things up. She started fights with people. There's supposedly all this drama going on, and nobody likes her. And on top of that, I think the one thing we can see is that Prince Harry, who again, is it Prince Harry, right? That's his name. He's, former military. He was a big sports guy, just a bro, I guess, like a dude. Well, he got woke after getting with her. He started talking about feminism. He started getting into, spirituality and meditation. And he even baked these fucking cupcakes. You are beautiful. You are strong. You are worthy. You are loved. You are enough. You matter.
This kind of seems like shit a dude does when he's trying to attract a very specific type of chick.
But he doesn't need to try to attract her. He's married to her. He's a prince.
I know.
He can
I'm
have
just
any
saying.
woman he wants.
It seems weird that he's keeping it up.
I don't know. I just think this is what I'm telling you guys. It doesn't matter how much status you have. You have to guard your loins against this shit. You can be controlled, and just be careful. It doesn't matter how much status you have. This guy is, a prince, right? And yes, I agree with Mike 100%. I couldn't care any less about this specifically if I was dead. But I think that you can take something away from this, which is no matter how much status you get, no matter how famous you are, people are following you around, you can meet a woman that will turn your life upside down. Put it that way. Now they're going to move to
you
America.
Into a project.
Yes, they're going to move to America. She wanted to be, I don't know what she wanted, but everything is different now. And I just think it's really interesting to watch that dynamic unfold. So there you go.
If he was a filthy commoner, after they moved to America and established residence here and established finances here, the pattern would be she would get bored because he's not a project anymore. And he's not the exciting guy anymore that, the rebel that she married. So she'd divorce him and take half or more and ask for maintenance, I think they call it in the UK, but alimony, child support, take custody of the kid and everything. I don't know if she can do that to him because of his status. Perhaps separating themselves off from the royals the way they're doing was also her idea, and she thinks that will be a step toward being able to do all those other things. Mm-hmm. But yeah, and this is like the thing about this isn't necessarily planned ahead of time by women when they do it. They convince themselves that they're not attracted to the quote dude bro because he is a dude bro, even though they are. They convince themselves they're not attracted to the guy with the perfect physique because of his physique. It's obviously because, he's an interesting person and they can see that he's a diamond in the rough and they just need to bring out the good parts of him, because they're the parts they're attracted to are not the pecs. It's obviously, the buried brain, right? But no, she's attracted to his lizard brain and she's killing it. And once it's dead, what are those stupid candies called that they make that look like those cupcakes? Once he only communicates in those stupid Valentine's candies, she'll trade him in for a new model. She'll go get another dude bro.
Yeah, the candy
because that's
hearts.
What she's attracted to.
Candy hearts. Yeah, the candy hearts.
There's a particular brand that's really popular. In my
Sweethearts or something like that. Sweethearts, maybe.
Sweet. Yeah. But in any case, those things, I can't eat those because they're too crunchy. Once he's communicating in all of shit like that, and
they are called sweethearts, by the way.
They are called sweethearts, and fortune cookie platitudes. She'll trade him in for another dude, bro, and she'll take half his stuff, and or more.
Dude, imagine-
she can.
This is hypergamy in action, and she's already cucked a prince. Where do you go from there? She's got to find a king now.
Oh, she'll find a rock star.
Are there any kings out there?
Or
There's
she'll
gotta be a
find
king.
herself a male train wreck and spend it all on him.
You should try the Ayatollah. I think that if she can like tame that guy, that could be interesting. Or Kim Jong Un. I don't know. She'll be well fed. Just do it. Just do it. Monkey branch onto something else. I want to see what lies beyond the prince. I want to see. But I don't know. Oh, I got some super chats. Does anybody have anything else they want to add to this story? I just thought it was really funny. So
I wish them luck in Canada or wherever they're going.
To the US.
I just hope it's far away from my news feed.
Markle, Markle, Meghan Markle is American, I believe.
If they're coming to the U.S., they are going to be all over the news here.
Oh, god damn.
Yeah, we're going to follow everything they do.
And they'll be under the jurisdiction of the U.S. courts. Especially, like, once they establish residency, they'll be under the jurisdiction of the American. That's what she's doing. Gee, Pete's. Run!
Yeah.
Run, Harry!
Okay, let's do the super chats and then we'll wrap this up. Let us know what you guys think about this story in the comments below. I know that look, I don't know much about the royals. If you guys have additional info, maybe, inform us. There could be stuff that I'm wrong about, and if I am, I apologize in advance. But let's see. The Great Indoors 1979 gives us €2 and says, but what if she identified as a mother and 11 kids? This is in reference to the last story. Albert Nada Retro gives us $10 Canadian and says, too bad nobody was offended by the dig Gal took at men in the unnecessary boat scene. That was improvised, by the way. Gal and Patty Jenkins also catcalled Chris Pine while filming the bathing scene. Well, I didn't know that, but thank you for the info. Albert Nada Retro gives another $5 Canadian and says, Meghan blew him better than the rest. So good, she put him in a woke coma. Maybe. I don't know. The Great Indoors 1979 gives us €5 and says, Meghan Markle just wants to become the queen of fairness and take over the factory, referencing Alison's series of tweets. All right. Well, thank you for those comments and the super chats. And of course, like I said before, let us know what you guys think about this story and any of the other ones down below in the comment section. I look forward to seeing your thoughts. So with that said, we're going to head over to the after show. But there was one other thing I wanted to give a really brief mention to. If you guys are fans of the band Rush, may have never heard of them. They are a Canadian treasure from what I hear. Neil Peart, drummer and primary lyricist for Rush, died last week at 67. Died on the 10th. And I'm a fan of the band. It's not for everybody. They're progressives, a progressive rock band, not progressives politically. They're certainly not progressives politically. These guys are like Randy and Objectivists or something. But I like it. It's prog rock, and I like prog rock, like Rush, King Crimson, Pink Floyd, and so many others. So I just thought personally it was a little bit sad. These guys made really great music. If you don't know Rush, you should look them up. This guy is probably the craziest drummer in the world. At least his drum set is like legendarily known for how insane it is. It's got several cymbals. It's got wind chimes. It's got all kinds of shit on it. So yeah, he died, and it's a shame. He lost a battle with brain cancer, I believe. So press have to pay respects to Neil Peart, and the band will never be the same. So we're going to go on into the after show now, and we're going to look at this article from Slate entitled Joker's Oscar nominations are a joke. Stop the madness. This movie is dumb as hell. It should be fun. If you've seen the Joker movie, or if you haven't, I mean, it's going to give a lot of shit away, but you probably should watch the movie. It's pretty good. So if you want to be a part of the after show, you have to become a Badger by going to feedthebadger.com and starting a monthly subscription. That will get you into the Discord. It'll also let you watch the shows as unlisted YouTube video streams. You'll also be able to, if you pay at a certain level, you can be a part of the after shows, like in the chat, either texting in the chat or even talking yourself. So please go to feedthebadger.com, set up a monthly subscription, and yeah, be sure to join us in the after show for this topic. So with that said, I'm going to wrap up the show. Mike, Dr. Random Hannah, do you guys have anything else you wanted to say before I close it out? No? All right. So with that said, we're going to get out of here. Thanks guys for coming on this episode of the HBR News Show. Please give this video a like, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, hit the bell for notifications. I did see that there was one more super chat. I'll quickly read it at the end here. Albert Nada Retro gives us $5 Canadian and says they've moved to British Columbia. She loves Canada. She filmed Suits in Toronto. All right. So thank you for the super chat. So yeah, please hit like, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, hit the bell for notifications, and leave us a comment. Thanks guys for coming on the show today, and we'll talk to you guys in the next one.
Men's rights activists are machines, dude. Okay? They are literal machines. They are talking point machines. They are impossible to fucking deal with, especially if you have like a couple dudes who have good memory.